Welcome to the Wellness Revolution podcast, the radio show all about wellness in your mind, body, spirit, personal growth, sex, and relationships. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have achieved physical, mental, and spiritual health in their lives. If you'd like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit drveronica.com for instant access. And here is your host, Dr. Veronica.
I'm Dr. Veronica, medical doctor, medical intuitive. You've been listening to me for a while talk about health and wellness and all matters of everything that is on the periphery of what you're getting every day when you walk into your conventional doctor's office. Now, I never say throw away your doctor. The doctors today, who are by and large wonderful people who are on a mission to help people. We are. But there's also everything else you need to know. The doctors of today, conventionally trained, the MDs and ODs, tend to be the firemen. They run from room to room to room putting out the fire because the people that come into the office are in a crisis and they're on fire. And so when you get upset and say, they're throwing that medicine at me again and I don't want to be on it, it's because you're on fire, because you haven't taken action before that. And maybe you didn't know what to do and how to take action. So it's my hope that after you listen to a lot of these shows and people who are on their, maybe a little bit earlier in their journey in life can learn another way to do it. The pharmaceutical companies are going to be awful mad. Companies like Monsanto who produce all this genetically modified stuff are going to be awfully mad. But we have a right to know what's going on in our body. Now, let me tell you something about what completely is non-existent in conventional medicine. Non-existent. There's the traditional Chinese medicine. There is Ayurvedic medicine out of India. And before you talk about what's going on physically, you talk about the spirit and the emotion and the energy. And we all know about energy because we can say my energy's high or energy's low or that person has good energy, but we have no idea what we're saying for the most part. It's just sort of a cliche at this point in time. They have good energy. My energy's blah, blah, blah. But you are a whole energy system. You're made up of atoms and molecules. And go back and think about Einstein, who was doing such cutting edge research right here where our studio is. I could walk to the Institute for Advanced Study where Einstein produced some fascinating ideas and theories in the terms of equations, and where he thought about some of the ideas that today we're still questioning, although we love this man Einstein. Now, we all know this famous saying, Einstein, maybe you don't know who the author of the saying was, but it was Einstein. Insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. People, wake up. If you're sick and you're not well and you keep getting worse, you have to do something different. Now, I'm not saying go throw away your doctors all right here, now, and today. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying expand your team. And so at Wellness for the Real World, when you listen to Dr. Veronica, medical doctor and medical intuitive, and I've even gotten to the point now where I want to say medical intuitive first because I'm proud of it now when I used to be scared to say it, I realize how important the energy system is. And I understand that when I meet people and their energy's off and they refuse to address it, those are those emotional and spiritual issues, that I don't care what diet I put them on. I don't care what supplement I give them. They're going to stay sick. So you have to participate in your care. And I'm not talking about going to church or synagogue or mosque. That's not what I'm talking about. You can pray. It's good to have a spiritual life, but you also need to meditate. Now, you know the difference between praying and meditating? I'm going to give you my definition. Pray. People are generally begging God or thanking God, and they don't shut up. Meditation, you just sit there and listen and wait. And people say, I can't do that because I can't slow my mind down. You're the exact person that needs to just sit there and listen and wait. And then when the answer appears to you, which is usually in the form of a person giving you a message someplace where you least expect it, then you have to know that that's the answer and then take action. This is how the law of attraction works. This is how the universe works. These are the type of concepts that Einstein was studying. Can you imagine that? So listen to Einstein, who we so admire in this country, who did some of his best thinking steps away from where I broadcast my show, and realize that here I am giving you a gift. And the gift is I bring to you my knowledge and my connection to the universe and pull in people that I know that you need to hear from. And so I'm going to introduce you now to Dondi Dahlin. And Dondi has a very famous mother. Now, before I talk about her mother, because a lot of times we don't like to be known by other people, but I'm sure she's very proud of her mother. She realizes that her mother is such a pioneer. Her mother is Donna Eden. She's well known as an energy medicine pioneer. And the little book of energy medicine, that's Donna Eden. I'm sure you're saying, hey, I know her. Yeah, you do. Her daughter, Dondi, has been around this her whole life. And so obviously has just, because you absorb energy from where you are, picked up other gifts and talents that she shares with people. And so Dondi, you can find at learnthefiveelements.com. We're going to talk about your element. Now, you've heard about elements on that periodic table and all this other type of stuff. And you say, I don't want to talk about this. You want to hear about this. 5 element secrets to guarantee harmony. Wouldn't you love harmony all around you? I got to tell you, I keep talking about it. I would love to see more harmony in America. And I know that the reason why we're imploding and people are walking around shooting each other, the police are shooting, the people are shooting. I mean, we think that, okay, yes, we do need to do something about guns. Yes. But it's because we got a bunch of angry people with their energy systems all out of whack, which is also leading to their physical ills too. And we don't even realize what's going on. We are so angry. What is your element? Maybe this is the answer for you to be in more harmony, because as you get more harmony, you can pull other people around you into more harmony too. You don't have to lecture to them. You don't have to preach to them. You just be and do. So I welcome to Wellness for the Real World, Dondi Dahlin. Dondi, how are you?
Dr. Veronica, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. That was brilliant. I'm on the same page with everything you say, and I love how you say, never throw your doctor away, but all of this can be complementary with each other.
Absolutely, because the doctors are sick too, and we need a healing. I can tell you 75% of doctors, traditional doctors, get depressed at some time during their medical career. Some of them commit suicide. I know. I went through a major depression, and then after I emerged, I figured out that a lot of the people around me had been through the same thing, and we just don't talk about it. So your doctor may need a healing. And so you may be just a person that walks in and offers something to them one day that helps them get on a better pathway. And so, Dondi, tell us about the elements. What are the 5 elements?
I would be so happy to tell you about them. I was raised in the 5 elements. They have absolutely made my life what it is today, which I think is a wonderful life. I'm a happy, confident person. So in brief, the 5 elements, it's a system. It's a brilliant system to help you get along better with other people. It brings compassion in. So Dr. Veronica, you were talking about how a lot of us are walking around angry. This system quells the anger. This system helps us to communicate our anger better and to live with it viscerally instead of in an aggressive or violent way. This is a system that's practiced by Tibetan masters, Buddhists, Ayurvedic doctors, and in many countries by regular folks. And if you've heard of the Myers-Briggs personality indicator or the Enneagram model, this is similar. This is a similar system to help you understand why human beings do what they do. And we look at the 5 personality types of water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And if you discover what your element is, what the element of your friends are, what your family is, then you have a key. You have a key into the world of how people live, how they act, why they respond the way they do. And you have a key to be able to relate to living with all people better in a more healthy way.
I know audiences that listen to shows like Wellness for the Real World have heard these type of concepts before sometimes. So the audience tends to be more educated on these complementary areas. However, we're going to start from the beginning for people who are just learning, because there are a lot of people just learning. So where do we start? Where this came, or where did it actually come from? From what I know, it came out of let's call it the Chinese tradition. Is there someplace else it came from before that?
So you're right. The 5-element system that I work in is from the Chinese tradition, the Chinese system. So chances are most people have heard of acupuncture. And the 5 elements came from the 2,000-year-old system of acupuncture. People may have also heard of feng shui. And if you haven't heard of it, feng shui is, well, it's a method for balancing energies in rooms and spaces and buildings. And so the energy can flow freely and assure good health and good fortune for people living in that space. So in these systems of acupuncture and feng shui is the 5 elements, and both acupuncture and feng shui draw almost exclusively on the 5 elements for their wisdom. And Dr. Veronica, you may know this. I think you'll be interested to know that it was the physicians in China, the doctors, who were able to look at a person and their 5 different types of vibration, their 5 different ways that they are as people.
So describe to us the 5 elements, and we all want to diagnose ourselves and figure out, okay, well, what element are we? Is it that we are one element, or are we mainly one and the other 4 are in us? How does it work?
Good. I will definitely explain this. So most of us have all of the 5 elements that come up in our lives at different times. However, there's usually one, and we call it the primary element, that is coming out in our daily lives, at work, with friends, with family. And it may be the same one that people default to under stress, or there may be a second one, and that would be called the secondary. So whereas we have water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, these elements can cycle through you. And it's not just about the personality. It's also about health. Every element has a certain body part that they govern, so to speak. So, for instance, a water person is governed by their kidneys and their bladder. So this just means that a water person may be a little bit more, tilted toward issues with the kidneys and the bladder. And so when a person goes to a Chinese physician, the Chinese physician will quickly assess what their element is and then look to the kidneys and the bladder first, because those are the organs that are governed by water.
To explain to me a bit about how the elements are assessed, because I do go to an acupressure, traditional Chinese medicine physician in New York City, and it's wonderful. But how do they seem like they don't speak English to you necessarily. They're talking to each other and they figure it out like in moments what's going on in you. How do they do that?
Right. They do figure it out in moments. They're masters from the moment you walk in the room. They're going to be watching the way that you gesture, the way you speak, the way you stand, the way you move, the way you react to them. When they say certain things, they'll also take your pulse. They may do an energy test, which is just testing a limb. Usually it's the arm. It can also be the leg, to see if energy is running through a certain meridian. And meridians are very simple. They're simply energy pathways on the body, and they're named after certain parts of the body. So, for instance, you have lung meridian, you have kidney meridian, you have liver meridian. And so they may do a number of tests. For people who don't go to Chinese physicians, there are online quizzes. I have a quiz on my website at learnthefiveelements.com Somebody can go on and take the quiz pretty quick and find out what they are. But it's so fascinating once you get into the 5 elements. Once you start studying, it isn't very long. I mean, like a day or two, and you can start picking up what elements people are around you. Again, by doing what Chinese physicians do, by observing people.
So if you want more information about this, go to learnthefiveelements.com. And also you can read Dondi's book, The 5 Elements. Very simple, co-authored with her mother. So you get Donna and Dondi all in one in this book, The 5 Elements. You're listening to Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica, medical doctor, medical intuitive. And you can find me at drveronica.com to ask more questions about any of the guests that I have, or if you can't find something you need to find out, ask me. I love to be asked and give you information to help you live a better life. Now, let's go back. You were talking about, well, if you're water, you're going to tend to have more kidney problems. Let's get a little bit more into detail, just if you can quickly, and I know these are long subjects, which is why, people like Dondi exist, so you can get a more in-depth explanation about who you are and the people around you. But let's give the made-for-radio explanation of the 5 elements. Let's start with the water. We're going to look at personality types because this is what people are going to see. You're going to recognize a particular personality type in somebody who's around you or in yourself. So let's start with water and go over what you're going to recognize from a personality perspective.
Perfect. So the water type of person, these are your poets, your writers, your musicians, your philosophers. These are the people who dive deep into the depths of life. Thinking about people like Sylvia Plath, Jim Morrison. There's also a childlike playfulness with the water person, so it's not just all deep, deep, deep. But these are definitely the people who are able to talk about art for hours, or music for hours, or they notice things like the smell of the rain on the pavement, whereas the rest of us are just rushing by. and the word hurry, by the way, is not in their vocabulary. Of all the elements, the water element is a person who really takes a slower rhythm. They slow down and they smell the roses, so to speak.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, that's the water type.
And let's go on to the other ones.
Let's go on to wood. So your wood type, this is the fierce, fearless, determined person. They come into obstacles and they suppress those obstacles. They see the bigger picture. They find solutions. They make changes. When you're thinking about people, you're thinking about, people like Simon Cowell. Pink, the musician Pink, who sings in her music with a lot of rage and anger. So let me touch on this real fast. Each element has an emotion that they lead with. And for wood, it is anger. For water, it is fear. Now, it doesn't mean that these people walk around in fear or in anger, but if they go into stress, that is definitely the emotion they start to exude. Going on to the next one, the fire element. The fire element, everybody loves the fire. It's Jim Carrey, it's Ellen DeGeneres. They're fun, they're funny, they walk into a room with a huge smile. They're almost dancing as they walk. And they have the great ability, this is what I love about fires, they just have the great ability to pull everybody else out of the muck, out of the stress, and lighten everything up. And they're very much into pleasurable experiences. So they're drawn toward fun, toward love, toward anything that feels good. And the fire's main emotion is joy. Moving on to earth, the earth type. Oh, this is your compassionate person. This is the person that is pulled deep from their core to service people. If you are a person who wants to help others, to make sure people are happy, to make sure people are feeling peaceful, then you probably are in earth, or at least you have a lot of earth. And it's like torture for earth when people are in pain, when people are hurting. They just want to help. Their main emotion is compassion, and they are the counselors of the world. They're the mediators. Think of Mr. Rogers, so sweet, the neighborly neighbor, and very peaceful and tranquil, and just lovely to be around or to listen to. And finally, the last element in the wheel, and we talk about a wheel because when you see the 5 elements, they're usually represented in a picture of a wheel. And the last one is metal. And metal people they're amazing. They never get too ruffled. They weather life's ups and downs. And the metal person, not always, but they're usually seeking a higher path of spiritual existence. They're usually looking for something outside of themselves, outside of their day-to-day life to really connect into. And they have incredible respect for themselves, their own journey, for the journey of other people. There is a beautiful celebrity who is a metal type. That's Angelina Jolie. It's almost like the metal people are above the fray. and it's a wonderful way to complete the wheel. So those are the types.
So what type are you primarily?
So primarily I am a mix. I'm a mix of wood and water, which is a little bit of an opposite. The wood person is fearless and a go-getter, and the water person can be a little bit shy and quiet. So I have both.
Ah, okay. So I'm going to ask you what I am. I'm going to guess that I would say I'm a fire and a metal, but I'm going to let you say what you think that I am.
Well, Dr. Veronica, I met you in New York, and my first hit was metal, and that's what I picked up. However, we were in a situation where a fire person probably wouldn't have signed as much, or the fire personality, because you wouldn't just be cracking jokes and swinging from the chandeliers as fires do. But your metal did come out that day, so that's what I picked up.
Ah, interesting. Okay, it's always, to see when people listen, they're probably saying she's a this or she's a that. So
right.
People have to weigh in on what they think that they are. So as we are coming down towards the end of the show, I would like you to tell people how this can really help them, knowing your element and everything, how it can help them transform really their health, because this is part of a system of health that it's used. It's not just sitting out there for fun where you do a reading. It's part of a system that includes the acupuncture and the acupressure and the Tai Chi and the herbs and all that. So how can people use these elements to improve their health?
Yeah, so once you find out your element, let's say you're a fire, you learn very quickly by studying the fire that there are 4 main body parts that the fire governs. So it's small intestine, the heart, the pericardium, which goes around the heart, and the triple warmer, which governs the fight, flight, or freeze response. So you can immediately start working with those areas in your life. Likewise, if you're an earth, you're going to be working with the stomach and spleen. If you're a metal, it's going to be the lungs and the large intestine. Wood is gallbladder and liver. And you can seek Chinese health practitioners to help you with these, whether you're doing hands-on work like acupressure or you're actually taking herbs. And I find it really interesting. I heard recently that the Chinese health system, so Chinese medicine, is in 95% of Chinese hospitals. That, it's just a part of people's lives in the East. Not so much here, although it's starting to gain force, which is wonderful because it is a complementary medicine.
Yes. And it's wonderful to know about these complementary areas. We feel here that if it's not a case-controlled, double-blind, retrospective study, that it doesn't work. Yet we have these systems that have been working for thousands of years in country where there's over 1 billion people who are more well than what we have in the United States. So, people, listen. There's a reason you have heard this show today. So I want you to be able to find Dondi Dahlin, and her mother, Donna Eden, who's in energy medicine, and they co-authored a book, The 5 Elements. And you can go to her website, learnthefiveelements.com. She has a nice little quiz on there that you can start figuring it out. But as I always tell you, after you take the quiz, that doesn't mean you stop right there and you read every book. Because if you think self-help is the way to go, that's why you're sick. Because you haven't brought in the team. In places like China, there are some times where the doctor's not paid if you're sick. The doctor gets paid only if you're well. What a novel approach. Keeping you well. That's what Wellness for the Real World is about. So I want to thank you, Dondi, for sharing with us in a very American said way about the 5 elements so that we can understand it a little better. Dondi Dahlin, learnthefiveelements.com, her book, The 5 Elements. And you're listening to Wellness for the Real World. I'm Dr. Veronica, medical doctor, medical intuitive. You can find me at drveronica.com. I love to hear from you.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more on how to bring wellness into your life, visit drveronica.com. See you all next week. Take care.